Hi there, welcome along. This is Good Morning Transfers, and we start with some breaking news from Manchester City. They have just announced the signing of Omar Mamouche from Eintracht Frankfurt. Arsenal striker search, though, continues, and with 11 days left to go in the window, well, time is running out, and finding the right player is becoming increasingly difficult. And Manchester United and Napoli, meanwhile, are still apart in their valuation of Alejandro Garnacho following a second round of talks in Italy. So will he be on the move? Could Tottenham really end up not signing any more players this month? Ange Postecoglou provides a bleak update on their transfer situation. And look at this, we're joined by Sam Abasaki and Manny Brown as well for all their insight. Brilliant insight, yeah, on all the big deals. That wasn't actually meant to sound that sarcastic. Yeah, it is brilliant insight. Right, we are going to start, though, I mentioned it a minute ago, with that breaking transfer news coming out of Manchester City this morning. They have announced the signing of forward Omar Mamouche from Eintracht Frankfurt. We understand they're paying a fee of £59 million plus a further £4.2 million in bonuses. It is a 4.5-year deal, and he will wear the number 7 shirt. Just to bring you a few quotes from the player as well, he said, "I'm so happy to be here. Manchester City is one of the biggest clubs in the world over the past 10 years, so it was not a question. It is an honour. The club showed an interest in me, and now I'm here. I'm fast, I'm good on the ball, and I'm dangerous." Okay. Statman Dave and Dave Reed here alongside me, the two Daves. What more could you want? Tell us a bit about the player and his numbers. They've been brilliant in the Bundesliga this season.
They've been very good. 15 goals scored, 9 assists in 17 games, directly involved in 24 goals, a goal or assist every 61 minutes, one of the best records in Europe this season. He's a player that's got a lot of pace to him. You know, he mentioned that in being a quick player, but pace from deep, really good. Think of him maybe as Antoine Griezmann when he joined Atletico Madrid, when he was this kind of second striker that would rush onto the ball from deep, put the ball in the back of net, dangerous all across the pitch. I like him in the inside right channel, creative from that area, good from wide left, cutting in on his foot, but he's a goal scorer. Gets his shots away off quick in the box, and a player that's going to massively help Manchester City this season.
Yeah, 15 goals in the Bundesliga this season. That is second, by the way, in the league scoring charts, behind only Harry Kane. 20 goals in all competitions. Dave's saying there he's going to make a difference. Do you feel like he will have an impact? Of course, they've been missing, Julian Alvarez since he left the club in the summer. Yeah, absolutely. I think Pep Guardiola has admitted really that he could have refreshed the squad earlier, chose not to, chose to rely on the players that were already in the building. And I think City have probably paid the price a little bit for that this season. But this is an extraordinary window from Manchester City. They do not do this. They don't sign or make major signings in a January transfer window. And when they do, it's probably been someone like Aymeric Laporte. And other times they've tried to do it, they've ended up buying younger players and loaning them back to parent clubs until they can get them in again in the summer. This is extremely unusual for Manchester City to make not 1, not 2, but 3 signings in this January transfer window. Mamouche is someone who can come in and make an impact right now, and I think that is what City have needed. They need someone fresh to come in. And you hear managers talk about it all the time, and when there's a new, fresh face on the training ground, on the training pitch, it just makes everybody look around and go, OK, I need to raise my level a little bit here. And if there are any Manchester City players that perhaps their level has dropped this year, and there's plenty of critics of City this year that think they have dropped a level, this is a player that can rejuvenate some of the players that are already there. Yeah, certainly what they need possibly at the moment. Mamouche, like Dave's saying, then their third signing, that is behind Abdulkadir Kusanov and Victor Hayes, who they've already added to the squad. They've been so active, haven't they? It does feel weird saying like they've made their third signing already, and we're saying there's still, over 10 days to go in the window. Yeah, they could still do more. Midfielder could be, joining Manchester City as well, and that would really complete their squad. I think defensively there's been massive issues. They've brought in 2 centre-backs. Going forward, they've not probably been as electric as they have been in previous seasons. They've solved both those problems already, and then the midfield looked a little bit open again against PSG yesterday. But as well, they didn't have the attacking impetus that PSG had. PSG had so many options off the bench. You're thinking of the attackers they've got. When you look at the City squad right now,
bar Haaland and Phil Foden at the moment, there's still a lack of spark, and I think that's what Mamouche is going to bring, that real quality in the penalty area.
Yeah, right, I think we've got a little bit more breaking news to bring you, actually, from Manchester City, and we understand that they have accepted an offer for a loan deal for Kyle Walker from AC Milan. Like I said, at the moment, this is a loan deal, potentially with an option to buy him permanently in the summer. We understand this is for a deal worth about £4.2 million. Look, this is something we thought was happening. We kind of all expect Kyle Walker to be moving away from the Etihad.
Yeah, for sure. And again, those sort of two centre-backs coming in, that kind of opens the door for Kyle Walker to leave. Victor Heisz, very comfortable playing in those wide areas, same with Kusanov. So it allows someone like Kyle Walker, that's been so good for Manchester City, to take that next step in his career, go to Italy, go to a league that will maybe suit his maturity, his experience now versus the Premier League that's very, very quick.
I think you have to look back as well. You know, looks like it could well be the end of Kyle Walker at Manchester City. What an amazing player he has been for that club, and an amazing player that he's been in the Premier League as well. Always interesting to interview when you hear him talk as well. He talks about the game. He's a thinker about the game. He loves football, and I think a lot of people were expecting him maybe to potentially go to Saudi Arabia in this transfer window, and he's gone to AC Milan. And you know, if you're honest, that is a league and a team that will challenge him again. So for him to want to take on that challenge when he's in the twilight of his career, I think it's huge respect to him. And I think all Manchester City supporters would wish him well. I don't think he's been at the same level this season as he's shown in previous years. So he'll be hoping that he can go over to Italy and probably still be involved in Thomas Tuchel's England squad. You don't know what his intentions are on the international stage anymore. And for him to go and challenge himself in another top 5 league in his stage in his career, I think it's great respect to him.
Yeah, just another sort of line to bring you as well. We understand that Kyle Walker is arriving in Milan today around lunchtime, and he will undergo his medical over in Milan this afternoon. It's so funny, isn't it, thinking we're in this sort of January transfer window and this City squads could look quite different, really, come the end of the month.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they needed that, right? You know, their performances haven't been good enough for their own high standards. You know, Liverpool are, far away in terms of winning the league title this season than Manchester City. So they needed these reinforcements. And you maybe go back to when they won the treble. There was a lot of talk in the background with their director of football talking a bit about how there's a lot of players that wanted new contracts or they wanted to leave when they'd, reached the pinnacle of European football. Maybe that's a bit of a hangover that we're seeing now in January. City spending so much money, more than they've ever done in the window by a mile, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely, and it feels like this is the beginning of a new Manchester City that we're seeing. There's obviously going to be a turnover and a churn of players over not just this window, but probably the summer as well. And now, they've got one of the top 2 best strikers in the world locked up for 9.5 years. The manager's staying. Players coming into the club have got an idea of where the future is going for Manchester City. So even though on the pitch this season it's not gone to plan, there are future prospects still for Manchester City, obviously. You look,
they've gone to South America. They probably bought the best young centre-back. They bought the best young centre-back in Europe, and they've bought one of the best attackers in Europe. They've done pretty well so far.
They've done all right so far, haven't they? Just a little confirmation of all that news then. Kyle Walker moving ever closer to a loan deal to AC Milan. He's expected to have his medical there this afternoon. And a busy morning for Manchester City because they have announced the signing of forward Omar Mamouche from Eintracht Frankfurt. Talking of forwards then, let's move on to Arsenal, shall we? All window, and to be fair, previous windows as well, we have been talking about their need for a striker. There is a long-term interest in the RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko, and discussions are ongoing over whether a deal is possible in this window. Dave, we say whether a deal is possible. How likely is it, do you think?
It seems very unlikely at this stage of the window. It would have to take a major shift from all parties, really, if this was to move. So right now, it seems about as far away from possible as you can get without calling it impossible, because things can change on the flip of a coin in football, especially when it comes to transfers. But he signed a new contract in the summer. That was until 2029. His agent's gone on record in this transfer window being quoted that he's not going to be leaving in this transfer window. Now, we understand that there has been an agreement of sorts, nothing in writing, but that old phrase, a gentleman's agreement between the player and Leipzig, that he can move in the summer, not right now. There isn't a release clause in his contract, so that means clubs have got to work hard to get him out of Germany. So at this stage, it feels extremely unlikely that this is going to happen. But he is a long-term target of Arsenal. They've been looking at him for a number of windows. Is it someone they can now focus on for the summer?
What are the other options? Are there any other options?
That they focus on. Obviously, Matheus Cunha is someone we're going to speak about a bit later on today. There's other strikers that might fit the bill. You know, Victor Gyökeres is going to move in the summer, but it just feels like Benjamin Sesko is the kind of the right guy. A big forward, very good with his feet, very pacey, good at finishing off moves. I went to the Emirates yesterday to watch Arsenal. They put a number of really good balls into the box. Martinelli from the left-hand side, Wanyeri from the right. There was another one from Declan Rice, where they just needed a striker on the back post. If you have a look at Benjamin Sesko's goal from yesterday, player on the back post putting a tapping in. So he's a player that I think would work really well. 8 goals in his last 9 games. He's coming into form as a striker, already so young. I looked at his goal involvement before, 118 goals scored, 20 assists, directly involved in a goal every 71 minutes. That's nearly as good as what we were talking about Mamouche this season. Yeah. He's done that over about nearly 10,000 minutes. So the level that Benjamin Sesko could go to is really high. Arsenal need to commit to players that are young, that are going to improve the squad. And I think he is in that bracket, basically the perfect signing for Arsenal, but probably not January.
Yeah, more so the summer maybe. Right, I mentioned earlier, not just us here today. We have Sam and Manny who are with us too, bringing us that insight. Boys, what do you make of the situation at Arsenal then?
It's interesting because we spoke about it a lot in the transfer window, and we've seen the options that the boys have given in terms of what Arsenal need. And I think Arsenal fans are not going to like me right now because they've seen what City are doing in terms of the moves. And I think when you look at Arsenal's forwards now, you know, they're the 4th top scorers in the league. They create a lot of chances. And when you look at the stats of their forwards, they've got Havertz, who scored 14 goals in all competitions. That's equaled his tally of last season in 21 less games. Martinelli, 6 goals in the Premier League, 7 goals overall. Yes, they've got Gabriel Jesus and Saka out injured, but they create a lot of chances. They've got Declan Rice's that's contributing to goals. Odegaard got a goal yesterday as well. I think in January, it's going to be difficult to get a player that is going to slot into this team and that's going to be perfect for them.
I think that is true, and I know they're going to struggle to do that because, like they were talking about Sesko, that's a difficult move to do. So for Arsenal right now, I think they need to be looking at getting the best out of Havertz. And it's not that he's not scoring goals like we can see, it's the fact that they need this to be higher. They need the conversion rate to go a bit higher. And I think they could look at other options in terms of Cunha, or I think even if you're talking about the Isaks and Gyökeres, that can't happen right now. For Cunha, we've seen Nottingham Forest going for him as well. So I think Arsenal now need to concentrate on getting the best out of these players. Also, Sterling's in there as well. He's not getting many minutes right now. Can they do more? He's a direct player that likes to go at people. So can he create more chances? And can this man here convert more?
And the interesting thing about this is that people are going to compare them to Manchester City. But we've got to remember, Arsenal are 2nd in the league. You know, they're still in the title race. City are way behind, 6 points behind Arsenal at the moment. So I don't think this situation is as bad as Arsenal fans think, but that's just me.
It's not that dire, is it? I don't know. People at home might disagree. Actually, we do want to hear from you this hour. Which striker should Arsenal try and sign? Get involved at home on X or on the Sky Sports News YouTube page as well. Post your views using the hashtag GMT, and we will read some of them out later on the show. Don't forget as well, you can keep across all the latest information as it happens on our dedicated Transfer Centre blog. Just scan that QR code right there on your screen. Right, so we've talked about City, we've talked about Arsenal. What about the situation at Manchester United then? Well, club officials left Italy last night. That is after holding talks with Lecce over a deal to sign Patrick Dorgu, and they also held discussions with Napoli as well over a move to sell Alejandro Garnacho. Dave, there's a lot going on at Manchester United at the moment. On those 2 deals, where do we stand on both of those?
Well, I'll get to Garnacho in a moment, but let's talk first of all about Dorgu. I think Lecce's preference was not to sell the player in this window, but I think they are expecting United to formalise the talks that have been ongoing with a proper offer, a formal offer for the player. I think United officials have been in Italy this week to discuss deals for Dorgu and obviously Garnacho as well. And United, the initial thoughts, an offer under discussion for Dorgu was around £30 million for the player. I think Lecce started out negotiations looking for around 38 million. So I think there's work to do there in terms of a meeting in the middle for both sides. And then what about Alejandro Garnacho as well? They're still apart, Napoli and Manchester United, on negotiations for Garnacho. I think United have softened their stance a little bit on their asking price. But for Napoli, I think they're maintaining that they only want to pay between sort of 42 million and 46.5, which translates up to 55 million euros for the player. So it's expected that the two clubs will meet again in the next few days in the hope of finding an agreement. I think Napoli are quite optimistic that they will meet in the middle on a fee. At the same time, Napoli are also looking at other options as well, and one of their other options is Karim Adeyemi from Borussia Dortmund. So they're keeping something up their sleeve, just something on the back burner in case this doesn't work out with United.
That's the sort of Napoli-Garnacho side of things. Just on him, you know, is Chelsea a real possibility? Could you see that happening, and where would he fit there? Because they're one of the clubs who have been reported to be interested in.
You'd say there's definitely a space for him. Chelsea love signing wingers. You know, he's another winger that could join the squad to play in multiple positions. You know, with Mudryk and his situation, there's a question mark there whether he's going to be able to play. So you've got a player that's got good quality, that's young, 20 years old. His goal involvements this season have been good. I think it's just the evolution of him in that next stage. It's a coaching position, which Enzo Maresca has shown. He's worked with a lot of wingers already and improved them. So it could be a good move for him. But at the same time, Manchester United as a football club, would they want to sell a player like that to a rival? They've already done it though with Jadon Sancho. Mason Mount's got the other way. So the relationship between the two clubs is obviously very good. It's just, I think Manchester United would have preference to go to sell to Napoli, really. Yeah,
I think so. I think from Garnacho's point of view, I think Napoli is, you know, they're hard fans to please over in Naples, but when they do love you,
very dedicated.
They absolutely love you. So he's got an opportunity, if he does go there, to write himself into Napoli folklore a little bit. The other side of that is if he goes to Chelsea, who's he going to be fighting with for minutes there? And yeah, he's going to be working under a great coach in Enzo Maresca. Almost similar coaches in a way, Conte and Maresca, because, you know, positional. They will tell you exactly where you need to stand in every moment of every game and the runs you need to make. So in that sense, he could be working under similar kinds of managers, maybe different temperaments.
Just a little bit.
But I guess for him, it's about who's gonna love me the most, who's gonna put me in their team.
Yeah. He likes to be loved, Garnacho. Let's bring the other boys in. Yeah, we all do. We do. These two do as well. Let's bring the other boys in. Sam, would you take him at Chelsea?
I think he suits the profile of what Enzo Maresca and Chelsea have been doing in the last few years, you know, in terms of his age and in terms of his experience. You know, we forget he burst onto the scene at United at the age of 18, and he's played so many games for them. You know, he's already played 31 games this season. He's got the most goals out of all the wingers at Chelsea and even at Manchester United, and the assists as well. I think the only area that he could probably improve on and that Chelsea would probably need more from him is take-ons completed. But I think it will be a good sign, and I also think he's slightly becoming underrated. I know he's a player that's inconsistent, but he's only 20, Manny.
I think there's a lot of factors in this, and when you look at the take-ons, that could be because Manchester United aren't as on the front foot as Chelsea would be this season. But I think it's a difficult one because Sancho's been good since going to Chelsea, and would you expect Garnacho to play on that left-hand side as well? He's a different player to Sancho. Sancho likes to stand someone up and maybe wait for the overlap, or sometimes cut inside and find a pass, whereas Garnacho is a lot more direct. Even though the take-ons are low, yet again, I think that could be to do with the fact that Manchester United are a bit on the back foot. But I think he could suit Chelsea. My problem is, for what he's going to cost, is it really going to change their fortunes, especially this season?
I think at the age that he's at now, I'm sure if he continues in the form that he's at, he's going to be of a lot more value in the next few years. And also, we've seen that, you know, they said Sancho was done at Manchester United. He's come to Chelsea. He's got more assists than he ever had at United. And Garnacho could be similar, but I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that one is going to rumble on a little bit, isn't it? We'll talk more about Garnacho a little bit later on. We're also, by the way, awaiting news on the Marcus Rashford situation. Did train with the squad yesterday ahead of their Europa League tie with Rangers this evening. We know there's interest from Barcelona. His camp met with Barca execs on Tuesday this week, and there's also been interest from Borussia Dortmund as well. Right, what a busy start to the show. We're going to just get our breath back, basically. Kyle Walker on his way out of Manchester City. He's on his way to AC Milan right now. Omar Mamouche has been confirmed as a Manchester City player this morning. We're going to hear from the man himself very shortly, so stay with us. Coming up next as well, we'll be talking about one of the most in-demand players in the Premier League, in Matheus Cunha. Nottingham Forest are ready to make a club record offer for Matheus Cunha, but Wolves are adamant that he is not for sale. Ange Postecoglou says there is a chance Tottenham don't make any further signings in this transfer window. Manchester City have accepted AC Milan's formal offer for Kyle Walker. The deal agreed is a loan with an option to buy him permanently in the summer for £4.2 million. West Ham remain interested in RB Leipzig forward Andre Silva. Juventus have agreed a deal in principle to take Renato Vega on loan from Chelsea. That's according to Sky in Italy. Rennes are in advanced talks to sign Celtic forward Kyogo Furuhashi for around £10 million. Southampton will not entertain offers lower than £55 million for their star winger Tyler Dibbling this month. And Chelsea have agreed a world record fee with San Diego Wave for Naomi Girma. That is in the region of £890,000.
Well, Emma mentioned him there. Let's talk about Wolves and their man in demand, Matheus Cunha. Nottingham Forest, we're told, ready to make a club record offer for him. Wolves, though, for their part, adamant he is not for sale. Arsenal also keeping an eye on Cunha's situation as they work to sign a forward in this window. Let's talk about Matheus Cunha then. I mean, how ambitious would this be from Nottingham Forest given the season they're having?
I think really ambitious, but I'm not shocked because they're in such a great position right now. You know, they're third in the league, they're joint with Arsenal, and that is going to be such a good move for them if they're really trying to fight to stay in that position, but also for seasons after as well. We've seen what happened to Brighton, you know, when they first got European football, how it affected them when players got injured, with Aston Villa when they started recruiting, and the players that they added to the quality when players like, you know, your Chris Woods and, you know, maybe your Gibbs White, if they're not in form, you can get a player that can play up top, he can play on the left, can play on the right. He's got 10 goals, 4 assists this season, and I think he's the type of player that a lot of these top sides should be signing, and if Nottingham Forest get him, that will be a really good thing for them.
I mean, just to reiterate, you know, Wolves adamant that he's going nowhere in this window. Dave, is he the difference between them staying up and going down? Is he that important to them?
I think so. You mentioned the stats before. He's been directly involved in 44% of Wolves' goals in the Premier League. So if to lose a man of his quality, they're going to be dropping back a little bit. But you look at the stats you want for an attacker. He scored the most goals for Wolves, completed the most dribbles, created the most chances. When you look at big chances created as well, we can see the stat there with 11. That's more than the next 3 best players for Wolverhampton Wanderers combined. So there's a lot of things there where we're looking at this guy's making the difference. When also you look at game-winning goals as well that Wolves have scored this season, Cunha's been directly involved in 75% of those goals. So, yes, Wolves would have a pretty difficult task to stay in the Premier League if they were to lose someone of Matheus Cunha's quality.
And there is a new contract as well on the table for Matheus Cunha at the moment, which we had heard earlier this window, indeed, that it was close to being agreed and signed, but that Cunha is also looking at his options in this transfer window as well. And not only Nottingham Forest interested in this player, but it seems like Arsenal as well. Should Arsenal be stepping in for him?
I think, like we said before, it's a difficult time for Arsenal, but I think he is kind of the middle ground between what they want in the summer and what they can get now. And I think for their fans, it will show that Arsenal are being ambitious and still chasing for the title this season. So I think he could be their go-to man.
So what's your gut saying? Do you think he stays this window, or do you think he goes?
I think it's difficult because for a player like him, when you're playing in such good form and you're seeing, you know, the goals aren't really contributing to wins, and yeah, at the start of the season, we saw the run of games that they had and everyone said it's going to be difficult. But as the games have gone by, you're starting to see a frustrated figure, and you're starting to see, you know, things that you see from players of that standard. And I don't know if that's the type of attitude maybe you'd want in and around a team when you know you're fighting for it. But also, he's come out, he's apologised at times, saying, you know, he could act better in certain situations. So if I was Wolves, they shouldn't let him go, because he's going to be key to them staying up.
Yeah, I mean, from a Wolves perspective, they'll be hoping the transfer window could be shutting tomorrow if they could, in order to keep this player. That he has been so important for them, but we'll wait and see for any developments on Cunha.
Today, I think, actually. Loads still to come, including an interview with Manchester City's latest signing, Omar Mamouche. Plus, could Tottenham really not sign another player in this window? All of that to come.
From Monday, the transfer show is going on the road. We'll be bringing you the latest transfer news live from the iconic Battersea Power Station on the south bank of the Thames. Join myself, Kaveh Solokol, Mike Wedderburn, a live studio audience and special guests every night as the countdown continues to deadline day.
Live audience. Look forward
Where's
to
my invite?
watching that. I know you said special guests. None of us are there. Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Brilliant to have you with us. We're going to take a quick look at some of the stories making the back pages today. In the Evening Standard, they are saying that Chelsea have made an offer to take Douglas Luiz on loan for the rest of the season. Dave, interest in this? I mean, a lot of the talk around Douglas Luiz and him coming back over from Juventus has been about him going to Manchester City. What do you make of this?
Well, Chelsea do have some injuries, Lavia and Enzo Fernandez as well. So in the short term, if he was to move, Douglas Luiz would get some valuable minutes. You feel like Juventus might be after something more permanent rather than, letting him move to a club for a stopgap. I actually like him for Manchester City. I actually like him for Manchester United as a potential signing. He can play in a two. He proved that at Aston Villa last season. And he was a major reason why Aston Villa qualified for the Champions League. He was excellent for Villa last season. And if he does move back to the Premier League, there's lots of clubs looking at him.
Yeah. Another one to bring you as well, this coming from The Sun this morning, who are talking about Leicester and saying that Ruud van Nistelrooy is unhappy with a lack of backing in the transfer market from the club's hierarchy. What do you make of that?
Well, when they announced the signing of Koulibaly, the right back, I think Van Nistelrooy said it's a good start. So I think he's gone on record pretty much as hoping that it's not just going to be one, it could be 2, 3, 4. Leicester's run of results has been really poor recently, and it felt, well, it was, there's no perhaps, or it felt like it. There was definitely a toxic atmosphere at the King Power last time out, and they need a lift, and he needs a lift. And Leicester need to do some business and get some players in to help him in order to try and stay up.
Yeah. Right. We asked you earlier on to give us your thoughts on which striker you thought Arsenal should try and sign. So just bring you some of the players that you lot at home are saying. Nate has said Arsenal should get Cunha or Wissa, two good Premier League forwards who might want to play in Europe. Yep, no doubt. Sun says sign Sesko. We've already said that might be difficult. And Cunha, he says. F. Malua says get Osimhen. And then Marley says Liam Delap from Ipswich, of course. What do you make of Osimhen?
Osimhen is a top player, and we saw him score so many goals in Serie A and did that before in Liga. Obviously, in the Turkish Super League, he's still scoring. He's been directly involved in over a goal a game, so still bagging the goals. He's a player that, similar to Sesko, where those crosses come into the box for Arsenal, he's the type of forward that's going to get his head on that.
Right, let's head back to Sam and Manny, and I think Sam is going to put Manny to the test.
Yeah, we're doing this or that for West Ham. It seems like every club needs a striker, so let us know if you agree with mine or Manny's shouts. I think for West Ham currently, they should go for Evan Ferguson. He's obviously 20 years old, only played 373 minutes this season, 1 goal, but can you remember when he burst onto the scene a few years ago when he was 18 years old, got 6 goals, everyone was touting him to be the next £100 million striker in the league, and then a few injuries set him back. But I think he would be perfect for Graham Potter's system. He's strong, he can, he's a striker that you can play into, he can get goals as well. But currently at Brighton, they've got 3 other options that are standing in his place to play consistently, and I think West Ham would be perfect for him.
Well, I'm going to go with Taiwo Awoniyi because I feel like he fits the West Ham profile in the sense that you can play up to him, he can hold up the play, and also he can link play in certain areas. But I think that sort of big, strong striker, also very physical in terms of engaging defenders. And I think they're similar in terms of Antonio. They're used to that sort of mould. So he can bring other players into play and play off of his touch.
2 good shouts, I'll be honest. I'm leaning towards Evan Ferguson because I think he deserves, the game time. And I still think that if he does get the game time he requires, he'll be, in that conversations for strikers or in the Premier League. Awoniyi, he's a great player, but I'm not sure. Who do you guys reckon?
Got any opinions?
Evan Ferguson, such talent. I think I'd go with Ferguson.
I'd probably go Awani. So there you go.
There you go.
Split down the middle.
We like it. We don't like it when you all agree on the same thing. Right, from East London to North London then, Ange Postecoglou says that there is a chance Tottenham do not make any further signings in this transfer window. Spurs' priority is to sign a striker, but Postecoglou says nothing is imminent with regards to incomings.
You've talked about how difficult it is this window. Is there a possibility that no one else comes in at this stage?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. As I said, club's working hard to try and get some help for the players, but as far as I know at the moment, there's nothing imminent. So, but things happened quickly in sort of the last week of the window, so still hopeful.
Is that a bit of a sort of standard response, really? I mean, fans obviously won't want to hear that nothing's imminent with the fact that there's only 11 days to go.
Yeah, I mean, he has been fairly consistent in the transfer window in his news conferences, Ange Postecoglou, and I think it feels like he's being open in those news conferences. There was obviously an interest in Ranokolo Mawani, and that's obviously gone away now because of his move. The forward positions is something that Tottenham are targeting, someone who can play up front, but also in those wide areas as well. But the list of injuries is it's almost getting ridiculous now for Tottenham, and it is. People saying, you shouldn't be using injuries as an excuse given the quality of the players that are available, but it feels like a pretty good excuse when you look at the list of players that aren't available.
I think the big thing is when you look at Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven, when they were in the team, when they were fit, Spurs were 8th in the Premier League. They then got injured. If you look at the form from that point, they're 17th in the Premier League. Very, very poor. Their goals conceded per game goes from 1.1 to 1.9, so nearly double the amount of goals conceded without those two players. And I think a centre-back, they're focusing on attacking players, but a centre-back for me was vitally important. Archie Gray has done really well there, but is he a penalty box defender? And that's something that you'd look at with Spurs and think that's exactly what they need. Player that we spoke about earlier on in the window, Alexandro Ribeiro from Lille, very similar to Gabriel at Arsenal, but the right-footed version, dominant in the air, very good on the ball, would be a player that would have made Spurs better and could have got them through this really, really tough period.
Yeah,
I feel a bit sorry for Archie Gray, I must say. He's so new to senior football, so new to the Premier League, and having to deal with everything that's going on and the kind of scrutiny that comes with being a Tottenham player as well, not being able to be eased in. And I think that a lot of the narrative around Tottenham has been, well, Postecoglou's not particularly flexible, but I think we have seen that in recent weeks. They tried 3 at the back or a version of 3 at the back against Everton at times, and Archie Gray was the one who was be the one who was not only playing centre-back but also moving into midfield as well. He's got such a lot of responsibility for a young man.
It's so exciting, right? For a player of that age to be able to play centre-back, right-back and central midfield and defensive midfield and look good. I mentioned not a penalty box striker, don't get me wrong, that's a tiny part of his game, but he's so good on the ball and given the responsibility to do that. But surely his position is higher up the pitch, and having an extra defender just in their squad would allow him to play a role that maybe he's more balanced at doing, or he's got the sort of all-round game to play those positions.
Talking about higher up the pitch, much higher up the pitch, Tyler Dibbling is obviously a name that has been linked with the club. How do you see that going? I mean, Southampton obviously want to keep hold of him. Yeah,
and it's going to take a lot of money to get him out of Southampton. I don't think they will be willing to entertain any particularly low offers in their eyes in this window. I think he is one that's been looked at by a lot of clubs in the Premier League. He's had a proper breakthrough, and I think he's one of those players that is actually a bit of a reference for other youngsters that are coming through academies. He went to Chelsea, didn't really go well for him, ended up going back to Southampton, and that is really where he's been able to flourish this season. So for him as a reference point for other youngsters, great. And I think if you go to a big club and it doesn't work out, that's not the end for you. You can go back to Southampton, go back to another club, restart, rebuild, and he's going to have an amazing career. And he's been very good. He's been one of the highlights of Southampton's season. I don't think it's going to be enough for them to stay up as it stands, or he's going to be enough to keep them up. But he'll be one for the summer, definitely.
Yeah. Tough indeed. Right, let's just bring you some news that is just reaching us here on Good Morning Transfers. Was expected, to be honest with you. Brentford have officially rejected Nottingham Forest's bid for Yoane Wissa and are determined to keep him until at least the summer. They don't want to part with any of their forward players this month. That includes the likes of Kevin Sade and Brian Burmo as well. So the news this morning that Brentford have officially rejected Forest's bid for Yoane Wissa. Right, coming up very shortly after the break, Statman Dave has been taking a little look at suitable left-backs for Manchester United. Yeah, plus we'll discuss who needs to do what with 11 days left of the window.
Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. It is that time to look at Manchester United left-backs or left wing-backs, however you want to look at that. We're going to take a look at 3 options from the Premier League and 3 options from Europe. First up, our Premier League options. These players have been linked with Manchester United for a transfer in the January window. Aït-Nouri at Wolverhampton Wanderers, let's start there. If I'm looking at a Premier League player for Manchester United, he, for me, is number 1. Only Anthony Robinson in the Premier League this season has got more assists than Aït-Nouri. Capable of playing a lot of different positions, could play as a left winger as well, would be a good asset to Manchester United. But I think one of his biggest skill sets, which fits into Ruben Amorim's model for this position, is ability on the dribble. Class him as a dribbling wing-back, a player that's got that speed to carry through the centre of the pitch. Looking at Kerkez, again, a player that's kind of shone this season in the Premier League. No defender under the age of 21 has been directly involved in more goals. We all saw his brilliant goal against Newcastle last weekend, a player that just keeps improving season on season. And finally, Mitchell at the end there, probably more the defensively minded option for Manchester United, but again plays in a back 3 system as a wing-back. So, it wouldn't be too difficult to move to Amorim's system. The big thing with him, of course, the defensive duels won, 5th in the Premier League for that statistic. And just looking at his dribbles as well, it's the lowest of our sample here, but in fact, he has the best dribble completion rate of any fullback in the Premier League at around 74%. So for me, Aït-Nouri number 1, Kerkez number 2 and Mitchell number 3 for the Premier League. So let's go to Europe, let's get on the plane, let's fly and find some other players. Of course, Jeremy Dorgu is a player that Manchester United are in talks with Lecce about. A dribbler, a guy that can carry through, that's got real extreme characteristics, that would be an asset for Manchester United. What I like about Dorgu is his finishing, something that you wouldn't necessarily talk about as a wing-back, but think Marcos Alonso in Antonio Conte's title-winning side, getting on the end of moves and putting the ball in the back of the net. Moving to Gutierrez at Girona, he's a player that came through at Real Madrid, technically very, very good. Previously, Girona played with a wing-back moving inside, an inverted wing-back, as you'd say, very comfortable on the ball in those central areas, good at attacking that inside channel to get crosses. This season, Girona have lost a lot of players. They've switched to a back 5, again a wing-back, but he's also spent time in central midfield. Those 9 assists, of course, cracking in the last calendar year, something that would add something to United's attack. And finally, from Germany, of course, we've got to visit the Bundesliga. Mittelstadt is a player I've been watching for a number of seasons now. At Stuttgart, he's finally, we're seeing his potential at 27 years old, a player that very much is providing the width on the left-hand side for Stuttgart, who have been one of the best teams in the Bundesliga in the last 2 seasons. There's 6 options. Again, Manchester United need to be busy because this is a key position for me. And that's enough of my statistics and talking.
No, you're going to do plenty more talking. We've still got time on this show. Before that, though, Statman Dave, we are going to take you back. We're going to roll back the clock a little bit. We like to do this on Good Morning Transfers because this happened on this very day, 6 years ago, 2019. Chelsea signed Gonzalo Higuain on loan from Juventus. Chelsea had probably hoped, really, that his arrival would address their woes up front. That was playing under Maurizio Sarri at the time, but that loan wasn't extended at the end of the season. And he returned to Juve having scored just the 5 goals in 15 appearances. Didn't work out maybe as Chelsea fans would have hoped, Sam.
Yeah, definitely not. But, it was nice to have him in the team.
Yes, exactly.
Higuain was a great player historically, but yeah, he wasn't at his best. But it was nice to see the 5 goals. He always celebrated with a lot of energy. And
passion,
that was nice.
Passion and energy. That's all we can ask for. Right, we have picked out, or you guys have anyway, 4 teams. And you're going to tell us what you think they need to do this window. Sam, I think you've picked out Bournemouth, who are doing very well. I'm 7th in the Premier League at the moment. What do you think they should add?
I think they need a striker. Obviously, I know that they've kind of filled that void with Ouattara. He scored 2 against Newcastle. They've got Kluivert, who's on 10 goals as well. He's having an incredible season. Semenyo as well. He's contributing with goals. But I think when it comes to the business end of the season, the pressure starts kicking in. They're trying to get to European spots. If they have a striker that's there that they know, might not guarantee a goal every single game, but, can fill the void of the injured players in Unau and Evan Nilsson, I think it'll be a good signing for them. But as we've seen, it's difficult to, sign a striker in this current market.
They're getting goals, aren't they? I mean, have you been surprised with Bournemouth this season?
I think
maybe what you thought sort of before the season got underway?
Yeah, I think they've stepped up. I think their pressing has always been very, very good under Iraola. But the goal scoring, the combination play, that's definitely been a level up. Semenyo's been fantastic. Again, I mentioned Kirkes before. It's been a massive part of them going forward. But also Ryan Christie. Probably one of the best midfielders in the Premier League this season. So aggressive, but also makes things happen.
Yeah. Manny, you've picked out Brentford. It feels like we've been talking about them a lot just because Thomas Frank doesn't want to part with any of those forward players that we were mentioning, the likes of Wissa, Brian Mbeumo, Sade as well. What do you think they need to do, or is it a case of trying to keep hold of players?
I think they have to try and keep hold of the players. However, they need to have a backup plan in case any of those players go, because they're in hot pursuit right now. People want these players. Wissa, Sade as well is another one that could go, but they've come out and they said, we're not letting them go. But, clubs do say that sometimes, and then come deadline day, something crazy is happening. So I think Brentford need to have a backup plan in case any of those forwards go.
Especially if a huge bid comes in. Crystal Palace?
Yeah, been in the spreadsheets again, being a bit of a nerd.
It's where we like to find it, yeah.
Sorry, guys. But looking at numbers such as progressive passes, progressive carries, shot-creating actions, carries into the penalty area, I found another wing-back, and I think Crystal Palace need to strengthen there. Hugo Alvarez from Celta Vigo is a player that can play on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. He was a forward, but he's been converted under the new manager to play that role. Palace just need more bodies there. He fits the perfect role. He's one of 5 players that hits those statistics I'm looking at. He's someone that Palace should look at.
Yeah. Sticking with a London club then, Fulham?
Yeah, I mean, Fulham are having a good season under Marco Silva. I think right back is a position that they're looking at. Kenny Tete's injured. There's been a bit of interest in Emerson Royale at AC Milan. You wonder now the Kyle Walker deal is accelerating. The breaking news that we brought at the top of the show that Manchester City have accepted an offer for him. So maybe now Fulham will be able to pick up Royale if they need a little bit of cover in that position. Marco Silva, I think, would like another player in there given the injury. But I just wonder whether, further forward, this could be a season of opportunity for Fulham. It feels like there's a window of opportunity to get European football next season for Fulham. Will they go out and do something in order to tip them over the line into that? Another thing for Fulham is about keeping hold of players, because Rodrigo Muniz is someone who West Ham is on their list again of strikers that they're looking at. And he's someone who provides a bit of cover but can also start in the Premier League. So they'll be hoping to keep hold of him. So could be a little bit going on at Fulham before the end of the window.
Yeah, a lot been going on at Manchester City this morning, by the way. If you are just joining us and didn't see it earlier, Kyle Walker on his way out of the club. He is heading to Milan today to have a medical with AC Milan, and they have signed a forward as well, Omar Mamouche from Eintracht Frankfurt. So, yeah, busy morning for us, but we're back a little later. That's the good news. A little reminder for you, though, Good Morning Transfers, that is back at the same time tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. And then, like I just said, join us at midday for Transfer Talk. We are joined by French football expert Jonathan Johnson. Looking forward to that. And then for a full roundup of all the day's news, you can catch the Transfer Show tonight at 5 o'clock and at 7 o'clock as well. But coming up next, here on Sky Sports News, it is the Football Show, and we'll be speaking live to Paul Merson. So stay with us.